founded African National Congress. He was elected president of his country in 1994 and became a worldwide symbol of victory against apartheid. Martin Luther King Jr. was a champion of nonviolent resistance to oppression. His famous "I Had a Dream" speech inspires civil rights advocates to this day. In 1964, he became the youngest person ever awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Sniper James Earl Ray assassinated King in 1968. Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of our 32nd President Franklin D. Roosevelt, has been described as the most civically active and powerful First Lady in history. Mrs. Roosevelt actively pursued reforms for blacks, American Indians, and the poor, as well as for the rights of the woman and youth of America. Indian philosopher and spiritual leader Mohandas Gandhi devoted his life to the ideas of nonviolence.
Countrymen and allies in World War II with his magnificent oratory. It was Churchill who coined the phrase, the Iron Curtain. Churchill served as Britain's Prime Minister until his resignation in 1955. In 1953, he was knighted and awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. French General Charles de Gaulle escaped World War II German-occupied France. He organized and commanded the Free French troops to fight with their allies against the German invaders, becoming the very symbol of the entire French resistance. He later served as the President of France for 11 years. American five-star General Douglas MacArthur commanded the Allied forces in the Pacific in World War II. Seattle-born genius William Henry Gates III founded the Microsoft Corporation at the age of 19. Today, he is believed to be the world's wealthiest man, heading the world's largest corporation with the world's largest foundation bearing his name. Sigmund Freud is described as the father of psychoanalysis. He pioneered the study of the unconscious mind and its impact on everyday life. British naturalist Charles Darwin was the author of On the Origin of the Species by Means of Natural Selection, which theorized that man was descended from apes. This theory aroused a thunderous controversy throughout the world, as it was in opposition to the Bible's teachings that man was descended from Adam and Eve. German-born Albert Einstein was considered the greatest scientific genius of our age. He revolutionized man's understanding of the universe with his theory of relativity. Galileo Galilei discovered the laws of motion and was the pioneer of astronomy in the early 1600s. He was brought before the Inquisition and tortured until he recanted his belief that the world revolved around the sun. Sir Isaac Newton, who lived in the late 1600s to early 1700s, is considered the greatest scientist who ever lived. We are indebted to him for the modern sciences of physics and astronomy, as well as for the basis for the science of optics. To 1865, between the southern and northern states, had its roots in complex political, social, and psychological elements. The vital concern of the Confederate States when they seceded from the Union was to maintain their social and economic position, which depended largely on slavery. The Union forces were determined to reunite all of the states of the Union as free states. This Civil War brought death to more Americans than did any other war, including World War II. President Lincoln first offered the command of the Union Army to Robert E. Lee. Lee declined and returned home to Virginia to lead the Confederate forces. The command of the Union Army went to Ulysses S. Grant, who led the North to victory. Grant was so popular that he was twice elected to the presidency of the United States. The great emancipator, President Abraham Lincoln, was assassinated just a week after the Confederate Army surrendered and the Civil War ended. The 36th president. During his 2 terms, he pushed through Congress important legislation concerning Medicare and civil rights, despite the exasperation of the Vietnam War. 35th President John F. Kennedy inspired the country's youth with his Peace Corps program. It assassinated him in 1963. JFK's glamorous, elegant, and popular widow, Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, married Greek shipping billionaire Aristotle Onassis in 1968. Thomas Jefferson served 2 terms as our 3rd president. He had written most of the Declaration of Independence as a young statesman of 33. Rather than face impeachment, 37th President Richard Milhous Nixon resigned his presidency in 1974. However, he never lost the respect of foreign leaders and became a respected elder statesman in foreign affairs. Known as the Great Communicator, our 40th president to both Judaism and Christianity. When he returned from the mountaintop, he was enraged to find his people had reverted to idol worship in his absence. So he smashed the sacred tablets. He returned to Mount Sinai and received the 2nd set of the Holy Tablets.
Simon Peter. Then Thomas the Doubter, known as a rather gloomy skeptic. Next, James the Greater or the Larger. He was the older son of Zebedee. Then Philip, a quiet, timid person who waited to be invited by Jesus to join the company. Sitting next to Philip is Matthew the publican. Matthew would write the first gospel. Next is Thaddeus, later crucified and buried in Egypt. And last, Simon the Zealot, as they called him. He was the eldest member of the disciples. He shows utter amazement in his face, yet he sits with great dignity. This was the last full gathering of Jesus and his disciples. The next day, Jesus was crucified.
Uncovered in Egypt had already been visited and looted. The fabulous artifacts of the Tut Pyramid lay just as they had been placed.